Mediterranean history based on the Cairo Geniza. Finds that were found in the 1890s. And the writer that did that, his name is S.D. Goytine, if you ever want to look at, he's doing sociological studies, you know. They even have material in there about the conversion of the Khazars in central Russia, and some letters concerning that, but there'd be letters all the way from people in India or Spain or other places. It's a fantastic treasure trove. It's really around the 10th to the 12th centuries in Cairo. And it's probably a Karaite synagogue originally. I think it was, but I don't know if it still remains a Karaite synagogue. Karaite, I told you, were a sectarian group of Jews. Only sectarian because the rabbinites said they're sectarian. I don't consider them sectarian. I don't consider anyone sectarian. I mean, to me, the rabbinic Jews are sectarian as much as the Karaites. Every group is a sectarian to any other group. And you know, I don't think they're sectarian Christian groups. There's, to me, no straight way of approaching these materials that is correct. So who is one person's sect is another person's right way. So anyway, Karaites are considered sectarians by the rabbinites, and they are. There's great hostility between them. There are very few Karaites left. There's some in Israel now. There were a lot up by the Crimean in Russia. But they originated in Iraq, as most things seem to do, in the 8th century, around the time Shiism was growing up. And they seem to have a lot of parallels between Islamic Shiism and Jewish Karaism. But the Jewish Karaism, Kara in Hebrew, means to read. And the presentation is that these people only followed written text, not oral law. So they rejected the rabbinic Talmud absolutely. I don't want to act like the speaker last night and show any personal feeling about the thing, but I can understand where they're coming from. I mean, I don't think that the Talmudic material is particularly, you know, superior to anything they may have been doing, or inferior to anything else either. But in any case, I understand how they may have felt. But they seem to have been influenced because something happened in their history that brought them to Jerusalem in the 1000s, right before the Crusaders came. And, you know, there was a whole group, I mentioned them in my work, called Mourners for Zion. Mourners for Zion. And one of the Jewish travelers from Spain around this time, who traveled all over the Middle East and Arabia and so on, comes upon these mourners for Zion in different places. And he said they would not eat or drink till they saw the temple restored, and they would only dress in black in mourning and so on and so forth. I think the Karaites are part of this mourner for Zion movement, but the point being that Jews have always been mourning for Zion, as you see. Dead Sea Scrolls were found clearly around some late in the 700s period. You'll find it in most source books about the scrolls. Some Christian prelate in Jerusalem made a note that strange documents came in from the dead, strange Hebrew documents suddenly appeared on the market. And it's clear that the Karaites had contact with these documents in some way. So I think they were inspired to some extent by the Karaites. And these documents actually have a lot in common with Karaism. So some early scholars thought that these were Karaite documents, even though, you know, you wouldn't have a Karaite document earlier than the 9th century, but it turned out that particular scholar was wrong. The Jewish traveler's name, by the way, if you ever want to read his works, is Benjamin of Tudela. Tudela is a town near Zaragoza in northern Spain. I highly recommend his book. It's really amazing. He goes, you know, traveling was a big thing apparently, and there are several Islamic travelers too at that time from Morocco. One's called Ibn Battuta. I love to read old travel books from the 10th century. I mean, it's really terribly interesting to see what the world looked like then. And among the other materials in the Cairo Geniza, this document was found, a Hebrew version of Ecclesiasticus, the Jews call it, or scholars call it Ben Sira, after the author. was found, Ben Sira, and I think one or two other works. And there are two documents of this Damascus document. It turns out they're the best preserved ones. And no one knew what to make of these documents when they were found. Now, an individual called Solomon Schechter, who later came to America as a scholar at Cambridge, was the founder of conservative Judaism in America, the first dean of the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York, which is the bedrock of conservative Judaism, which is in between Orthodoxy and Reform Judaism. He published what he called the Zadokite fragments, because he had, coming from Cambridge, he was sent out by the British government, and he took a lot of these back to Cambridge, and he published that. But no one knew what to make of them at that time. They were so odd and so different. Lo and behold, we found the scrolls. We found 10 or 11 different versions, but we didn't know it, because the official team never shared that information with the rest of us. And if you read those books like Bajan and Lee, The Dead Sea Scroll Deception, which gives you should be looking at that, which gives you a really good background of this whole situation in terms of what the actual events were. I know because I contributed to that and read it over. And as I think I told you at the beginning of the class, I'm not responsible for their what if, suppose, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I am sure that their data is accurate. Anything they had in there is pretty accurate. They're the ones that wrote Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and I see they're making a second Da Vinci Code film, and I saw on Yahoo or whatever this morning that it's the first thing being held up by the writer's strike. It's a prequel. They made something like $850 million on the Da Vinci Code worldwide. I don't know how it wasn't. I wouldn't have given you 5 cents for it, but it just shows how fickle money making is. Everyone at the Gospel of Judas conference last night, where I was actually complaining about all the money the scholars made who published their books right on. That was the big gripe, the real attitude of the people who were listening to this discussion. And one of the participants said, what's represented here is over $1 million in royalties. People sitting on the podium there, and everyone in the audience got really angry. But anyway, look, if that encourages people to go out and write books on religion, that's fine. That's good. I think that people should go out and write and try to, if you want to say, capitalize or make money if they can